Hello and welcome to Ben Talks Film. Today we are talking the best performances of 2025. Joining me today is Cody Dericks, who we've been talking about this for a little bit. We have spent some time today discussing the performances that are going to make this list. Before we go any further, I just want to introduce Cody. Cody, the big question that I have for you is how did you feel about the year 2025 in movies?
I think it was actually pretty good, which is nice because in the first 6, 7 months of the year, it was looking a little spooky and not in the way I like. But I think it eventually came around to being a pretty decent year in movies, especially after the fall festivals really started going. Um, I felt like we were drowning in a lot of really opportune things to talk about towards the end. And I think that reflects in the Oscar nominations. It's a lot of later stuff, and then Sinners, which is kind of there by itself as the representation for the first half of the year.
I'm glad you framed it that way because when I was making my best of 2025 list for the 10 films that I had that year, I basically up until the end of December, I was like, it's a pretty weak year for movies. And then I made the list and I'm like, oh, I have like 10 movies here that I gave 4.5 stars or higher to. I actually ended up being really positive on a lot of the movies. I don't know why it felt like throughout the year I wasn't getting the higher clicking ones, I guess you could say. I noticed myself really struggling at the movies. This was a year I saw the least amount of movies I've seen
Interesting.
in a number of years. Usually I'm hitting about 200 a year pretty easily. And this year I'm down to about 100.
Okay. I'm almost at 200 this year, which will be my most. I've never crested 200 new releases.
Yeah, and I don't know what it was. Even looking at my letterbox, I noticed and I didn't do the list this year, but I noticed I didn't have a 10 worst list. I was like, I didn't feel passionate about anything enough to even call it that bad. I also think I also just noticed myself. I don't know if it was just self-help or what I was doing, but I just noticed that I'm like, you know what? If I know this movie's going to be bad, I'm just going to skip it. Usually every year I'm like, I'm just going to go see it because I feel like I'm obligated to see it and talk about it. And this year I'm like, no, I don't feel that obligation anymore.
I used to be that way, and now I'm like, I don't want to see, to your point, Christie, which I know you said was okay, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to see it, so I didn't. Once it started getting no attention box office or awards wise.
So I guess the question is, before we jump into this list and we're talking about the 25 best performances of 2025, what did you make of the Oscars this year thus far? Are you excited about this season? I've noticed myself not as excited about this season, and I don't know why, because a lot of the things that I like are nominated.
Well, here's the thing. I think the performances nominated are actually pretty great for the most part. I do think that for me, a lot of the big contenders and Best Picture is very top heavy. Where I have 1, 2, or 3 movies I love in the top positions, and then a lot of just okay to things I really did not enjoy below that. And I also just don't love when the vast majority of the nominees across the board, across all categories, are Best Picture nominees. It just feels really lazy to me. The amount of movies nominated in any category that aren't Best Picture nominees is very small this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the smallest ever, which to me speaks to lazy voter mindset and just a lack of curiosity to move beyond the 10 films that we're already honoring in the top position. 16 nominations for Sinners is cool, but do I think it's excessive? Probably yes. Would I say that for any movie that got that number of nominations? I would. But, I do think One Battle After Another, it's very boring, but it's my favorite of the year. It's probably my favorite of the decade, so I'm really not complaining too much when it's doing pretty well at this point, and I imagine we'll be doing well winner-wise when we get to the ceremony.
Yeah. I've noticed myself having a fairly similar mindset. I think the thing that's really interesting when I'm thinking of it in the context of this list that we've made, and we had a lot of overlap on some of them. The thing that I noticed was there was just a few films that just fully blanked for me. There's a few of the Best Picture nominations that just nothing for me. I felt nothing watching them, and we'll talk about that. I don't want to spoil this list yet, but there's a few titles on here that I noticed were not on my list and they were not on your list. And I think it kind of speaks to some of my enthusiasm for this year with the Oscar ceremony. Is the thing that I feel the most passionate about is going to win Best Picture, or in the case of Sinners, which I did like Sinners more than I liked One Battle, but like, I felt like it got rewarded. I feel like it's doing good so far. Like, like I'm going to see it get love that day. I'm going to see One Battle get love. All this stuff like that is already receiving the love. So on my side, I'm like, well, it doesn't feel like I'm championing anything. I'm like, it feels consensus in a way that I've never really felt like I've gone chalk with the Academy, I guess. Like I usually feel like I'm a little bit of like, oh, like why did the Academy forget this? And then I'm like looking at the list, I'm like, I probably would have voted a lot of the same ways these people did, give or take a few big titles.
Yeah, there's always one or two movies that do well that I just fully can't fathom why. This year there's several of them, especially in Best Picture, from directors that I previously have liked their Best Picture winners, but that's well, I'm sure that'll organically come up.
Yeah, I think that might get mentioned because I think I have a very similar feeling about one film in particular that I love. I'm not going to say love. I like all of their other films, including the ones people would think, oh, nobody likes that one film. Like,
I too liked Eternals. It's okay. You can say it.
Yeah, we could say I liked Eternals.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess now that we've brought it up, like Hamnet didn't make my list, which
hard no.
Did not like that movie. I felt the exact same way. And I don't know if it was just like what it was. I saw it in theaters and it was the one movie that I had to kind of force myself to sit in the seat going to the movie. And then like while in the theater, I like forced myself to stay in the seat. Like that was the closest I wanted to walk out this year.
It's a shame because I like Chloe Zhao. I like her previous work. I love Shakespeare, which is maybe part of the reason I didn't like the movie, because I think the more you know about Shakespeare, the less you're likely to be on board with the movie, which I think is a problem. But that's probably the last we're going to talk about that today, because I don't know about you.
Which I guess let's talk about the best 25 of 25. We have a fairly, I think, comprehensive, and when you look down at it, a pretty good list here. So let's just kind of introduce this. What was your mindset while making this list, like this exercise?
So I wanted to, this ended up happening kind of unconsciously, but I did not highlight too many Oscar nominees. I believe on my list of 12, only 3 of them are actually nominees from the Academy. I kind of wanted to spotlight some people that aren't already getting their, appreciation. And the ones I do have nominated that were nominated by the Oscars, I doubt are going to win. So I kind of wanted to spotlight some underappreciated work. And some work that I feel specifically passionate about. Again, that may overlap with other people's tastes and voting bodies. But yeah, I kind of wanted to go slightly a little bit outside of what's been discussed a lot this season. Not crazy. I'm not pulling up something from, like a movie that I gave a 3 out of 10 to, but I'm saying, hey, this performance is good. But yeah, I feel it's easy to say because it's my list, but I feel pretty good about my list.
and this is kind of the behind the scenes, because I find it interesting, is so I told you to come up with your 12 first, and then I would go backwards and try to basically fill in where I felt like I wanted to talk about certain films. So I feel like mine's is probably a little bit more Oscar heavy than your list was. Kind of because when I was reacting to your list, I'm like, okay, I want to talk about this film and this film, which again makes sense based on what you were talking about of wanting to highlight certain films. So that was kind of my logic into this. I think our number 25 pick is a pretty exciting one because it doesn't really have anything to do with the Oscar ceremony. It's a film that I just straight up loved. I think I had it top 3 of my year. Like I straight up adored this film. I've watched it so many times. It is David Corenswet as Clark Kent in Superman. This was a film that I felt deeply passionate about. I loved it when I walked out. This is a character that I have always had a great appreciation for and had never thought I had seen done particularly well on film. And this for me just clicked. And the more I've watched this film, the more I'm taken away by this performance. Everything about it works for me. I find his optimism, his charm, all there. I think he is an excellent Superman. We don't have to spend so much time on this because I know I've talked about it pretty heavily on this channel. But Cody, I haven't actually heard your thoughts about it. So when we agreed that this would be our overlapping one, that made me excited.
I think in terms of degree of difficulty, David Corenswet had probably one of the hardest jobs of any actor this past year.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily because this is a tough role emotionally or anything, but because the weight of expectation for that character and the promise he needs to live up to is so tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's by far the most iconic character in the definitional sense of iconic that was on screen this year, easily. And I think pretty resoundingly, people loved his interpretation, which also has to do with James Gunn. I think the tone that James Gunn brought to the movie as a filmmaker worked well with the character and with his performance, David Corenswet's performance. But if he wasn't there to be as charming and affable as he was, and most importantly, I think really human at times, like the scene where he has that discussion with Lois about the wanting to change things but feeling frustrated by the limitations of all around him, he gets kind of spicy there in a way that you might not expect from like the world's most famous Boy Scout. But yeah, I think he did a phenomenal job.
It's the reason I really felt that performance is moments like that. One of my favorite scenes is where he's talking about Crypto, when Crypto's been kidnapped, and he talks about like, oh, you know, he's not even like a good dog. Like, he's kind of a pain, but like he's alone and he's scared, and like that's why I'm gonna risk everything to go and save him.
Mhm.
And it's moments like that where I'm like, okay, I feel like this guy, and it is largely due to the writing of James Gunn's there as well. But it's that understanding of humanity that I thought he had. And I think having just lived in the Snyderverse for so long, this like ounce of like, oh, the thing that makes Superman great is that he is just a guy. And it's the scene, my favorite scene of the movie is where he's talking to his dad and they have that heart to heart on the bench. I find that scene on the farm just absolutely stunning. I think it's a great performance. So I'm going to let you kick off with your list now officially. So the thing is, I know your performances. I don't know them ranked. You don't know my rank. So we're going to kind of react live as we're getting it. So what is your performance you're putting up here?
So would you like me to go 12-1, I assume?
Yeah, 12-1.
Great.
I think that's the best way.
All right. So number 12 is, after all that blustering, I'm starting with an Oscar nominee. But I think fairly safely I can say he was the most surprising of the 20 acting nominations, even though it wasn't too shocking. I'm going with Delroy Lindo from Sinners.
Oh,
An incredible performance from one of our greatest living actors. If I had my way, he would have won the Oscar for Defy Bloods, which I thought was just a phenomenal performance. I still don't know how that didn't get traction. That movie in general, besides that random score nomination. Anyway, he is so grounded and forceful in this movie. He feels like a foundation that lies under the entire film, even though he has relatively not too much screen time, him being a very supporting performance, which is, you know, what the category's for. But he's there to kind of give the movie its sense of import, I find at times. You know, he's not the fun twins that are, you know, coming from town from Chicago with all this money and ability and they're, you know, fun to look at. And he's not one of the young musicians who's there to kind of get this juke joint going. He's there to represent the old historical guard that's been doing this for a long time, who finds their lives disrupted in ways they didn't expect. And yeah, he just has such a sense of import to him that's hard to put on, I think, if you're not that experienced.
What I love about this performance, and it has to do with the connection to the end of the movie, which I know is a different actor, or it's a jazz performer. What's the name of the guy?
I don't remember. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm blanking on it. I knew it at one point, but it's that ending moment where it's just like, oh, this is what the film is about. This is where it's grounded in realism. This is what it's trying to say. I think Delroy Lindo is doing the most of that, of like centering the film on like, this is what this film is about. This is about cultural appropriation. This is about the blues. I in honor of highest to lowest this year, I kind of went back and rewatched all of Spike's films, or for a lot of them, watched them for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
which that's really, I feel like, where people are probably most familiar with Lindo as an actor. So I got to watch like Clockers for the first time, or I got to watch Crooklyn for the first time. Fantastic performances with Lindo. So for me, this was just an exciting year to see him as an actor and to see him as a younger actor in Spike Lee films, and then going from this to be the old guard in the movie. And I just found it very powerful. It's interestingly enough, I also have a supporting actor for Sinners at my number 12. It's actually a supporting actress. It
Mm-hmm.
is Hailee Steinfeld for her character Mary, Stack's ex-girlfriend in Sinners. The reason that I picked Sinners, and I have to fully admit, like, I kind of did the same thing you did, where I'm just like, I love Michael B. Jordan. I think he's phenomenal in Sinners. Like, it's an incredibly charismatic performance. He does wonders with the twins. The reason I went Steinfeld is I enjoy going into a movie being surprised by somebody where it's just like Michael B. Jordan. I love him. He's one of my favorite actors. He's one of my go-to guys. I always just trust him to be good. Hailee Steinfeld's a little bit more mixed for me. I generally like her, but she hasn't like ever like done this for me, where I just didn't know she could do this mode of character, which for lack of a better word is like cool. Like, she is
Yeah.
so, when she's on screen, like, you understand everything about her. You understand why everyone would be obsessed with her. You understand why like Stack is just like enamored by her. And like, it's also like, we always talk about like actors when they grow up, when you've known them for such a young age, to then like kind of see them evolve. We've talked about this with Chalamet a lot. This was kind of the same for Steinfeld for me, where I've always felt her more in that preteen role. I mean, that's obviously what she's been doing with Edge of 17 or with Hawkeye. Like, that's always the mode of operation I've understood her as an actress. This was the first time where I'm like, she is a woman. She is a bombshell in this movie. She is like so sexually charged in this movie in a way that I just found incredibly powerful on screen. I found this performance just electric, and it surprised me. And that's the fun that I had with Sinners, where there's a few performances in there where I'm like, I didn't know you had this in you. And like, by God, like, that was incredible.
Yeah, I'm always going to be rooting for her because her performance in True Grit is one of my favorite child performances of all time. She's incredible in that movie. What she does here, she also is my favorite. So no shade to Wumi Masaku, who I love, and I've loved her since His House, but she is my favorite performance, my favorite female performance in Sinners. And yeah, she just storms in and you get immediately the sense of her character. And when she turns, it's spooky. She really leans into that horror movie energy in a way that not everybody in the cast does, which is fine. But I think her character feels the most able because we see her, because of how we see her before she gets vampirized, to become the like devilish type of vampire that she is. I mean, she's putting the vamp in vampire quite literally.
Yeah. She feels like the most flexible of genres amongst in that film, I should say. Like, she feels like she is down for any of the tone that film requires her to do. And I just found it incredible. Cody, I'll let you do your next performance here.
Yeah, so next I have also a supporting actress, but from a movie that was nowhere near Oscars. I'm going with Zoe Winters from Materialists.
Okay, I needed to ask you about this because I saw this on the list. Please justify.
So she is a very brief role in Sinners. She plays a pivotal role in Materialists. Sorry, she plays a very brief role in Materialists. She's not in Sinners. She plays a very brief role in Materialists. She has a pivotal role in the turn the movie takes, going from kind of like romantic comedy to drama. Yeah, I liked Materialists because I liked how odd it was. I liked that they all spoke like aliens. I liked that it was investigative in a way that didn't really seem realistic, but I don't mind that. I don't mind realism. We were just talking about a vampire movie. But I think what she does, specifically with one scene where she confronts Dakota Johnson's character, is really incredible. It is emotional but restrained. It's that type of thing where you see an actor trying to play holding back emotion, which is harder to do than just giving emotion. And I'm gonna be honest, I have not seen the movie since it came out in the summer, so it's been a little bit. But she just made such an impression on me in that one scene, basically.
I feel like we can spoil the scene because I also just want to make sure that I am thinking of the right person because I will admit I did not revisit Materialist for this conversation. She is the woman who goes on a date with somebody set up by Dakota Johnson, and then something happens to her on the date, and then she has the confrontation later. Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah, the movie also kind of ends with her and Dakota Johnson, sort of, or at least the emotional arc concludes with her.
I don't know what to think of this movie or performance. I agree. I found this scene striking, and I found her performance striking. I couldn't tell if that was in a good way / me just not understanding the decisions made to the writing there. I didn't dislike Materialist. I went to go see it with my girlfriend, and like my feeling of watching the movie is I liked watching it. And then when I was walking to the car, I was like, wow, that wasn't good. Like that was like, and I couldn't really like put it to like words and explain it. Like I have so much patience for Dakota Johnson. I don't know if that movie is utilizing her well or isn't. I really can't like make heads or tails of it's a lot because I feel the same way about Pascal. I think Pascal's actually pretty good in that movie in a role that I don't fully understand. My Materialist hot take is, and tell me because I don't think I've shared this with anyone. If you were to just switch Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans, does the movie work a little better? If Pedro Pascal is the actor.
So I don't have such hangups. I don't know. What I find the more I watch movies is I'm much more willing than I think a lot of people to take a movie on its own terms. So I don't usually push back against a movie and think like, what if it was this or that? I kind of just take it as it is and graded success for how it's presented to me. That's just how I watch movies.
No, that's totally fair.
I think what really impressed me specifically about this performance, this moment in general in the script and how it's written, but also this performance is if one actor is able to shift the temperature of the movie completely in just one scene and do so effectively, I find that really compelling. You kind of see that with some other performances in this list that I'll get to later, specifically like I'm going to spoil for a second. Amy Madigan in Weapons. She takes the movie and flips it. And it's entirely because of her performance. The writing too, yes. But if her performance was not so successful and so dialed into what the movie is trying to do in that moment, it wouldn't work. The movie wouldn't work. But because it does work, I have to give it like extra praise because that's so hard for the movie to do.
No, I totally understand that. And I think like I liked that you had Materialist on this list because I was also trying to think at least on my side, I was trying to think, is there anything that I want to like give Materialist here? And I kind of kept coming back to the Pascal performance in the movie because my favorite scene of the movie, and I think it's my favorite written scene, is the moment where him and Dakota Johnson have a conversation in the bedroom. And I think that scene is like incredibly difficult to perform. And I was pretty blown away by Pascal in that scene. I like this pick because you are right. That is the most memorable scene in the film, is this scene that you're talking about, this confrontation. Also because it really does just change what the movie is about when you bring in this plot element. And again, I don't necessarily know if it needed to be there. That was kind of my conflict with the movie, is I'm just like, I don't really understand the tonal shifts going on here. But I do think Zoe does a good job of selling that. In a similar fashion, my number 11, or the next person on my list, I should say, I think has a very similar job in the movie that they are in, also an A24 movie. And the thing that I took away from Kate Mara in Friendship, which I rewatched this week, was she is maybe the weirdest character in that movie, and the movie doesn't explore that at all. Like it tells you that that's happening in the background, and you're so focused on the Tim Robinson stick in the movie that like the more you examine what Kate Mara is doing in that movie as the kind of sort of wife, you don't fully understand their dynamic in the movie either, to Tim Robinson's character. I found it electric. I think this performance is so funny and so dialed in. The fact that they give no context to anything of this relationship, like I believe they are husband and wife because they at the end of the movie they are going through a separation.
Mhm.
They don't define her relationship with her son in a very clear way because it doesn't
Very
feel
weird.
like Tim Robinson is the father, but
Fair.
like they refer to him. The funniest scene in the movie is her describing having an orgasm in the sewers, which is going to sound so out of pocket if you haven't watched the movie. But this is kind of the tone of the entire movie. And it's also me nominating Kate Mara allows me to kind of talk about briefly Connor O'Malley in Friendship, who I was really close to just putting on this list. Connor O'Malley comes in as a guy who just has a freak out for like 2 minutes and then leaves the movie, ending with the line, and anyway, I think this is why the pull out of like Afghanistan was a failure. Where
He's like, by the way, I think we should still be in Afghanistan.
That's what he says, yeah. And it's the randomness of this performance that I just found so wonderful. Because again, you're so focused on Paul Rudd, you're so focused on Tim Robinson, that when you actually start like noticing the background of what everything Kate Mara is doing in this movie, I think she holds the movie together in a lot of ways. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just like watching it in theater and then rewatching it again this week. I just noticed I couldn't take my eye off of her.
Well, she's playing it real, which makes it is a kind of a bold choice in this movie when everybody else, Paul Rudd less so, but especially Tim Robinson, obviously, and Connor O'Malley, and a lot of the supporting characters that populate the movie, the son even, are playing it exaggerated for obvious reason. And she is playing it like a normal woman, but the things she has to do and talk about are far from normal.
Yeah, I just, like I said, this was a performance that I was obsessed with. Walking out of the theater, I was like, who is this person? Why is she the way that she is? Like, the more I watch the film, because I think I've watched it 2 or 3 times now at this point, the more I'm like, Tim Robinson is like by far the weirdest person in the film in terms of performance because he's Tim Robinson. You watch like Paul Rudd in the movie and you're like, oh, this is like a very upsetting, not normal guy either. It's just like everybody in comparison to Tim Robinson just looks a little bit more grounded, but then when you actually see their action, I think it's a brilliant screenplay. I think it's a very funny performance. I'll move on from it. What is your next one?
So next up, I also have a comedic supporting performance, and this is Michael Cera in the Phoenician Scheme.
I wanted it so bad. This was another one that I had written down for a while as I want this on my list.
It's one of those performances. I don't love the Phoenician Scheme. I really like Wes Anderson. I think the movie, I don't really know what is going on in that movie. All of the plot details about estate planning and ownership, that all goes over my head. But what Michael Cera is doing here is so comically perfect.
Yeah.
His accent work, his character dynamics, when he switches his like characterization at a moment that like is a reveal.
It's one of my favorite scenes.
It's brilliant. It's incredible. It's incredible. And it's
so electric to watch.
Yes, it is. It is similar to what we were talking about before. Changes the temperature of the movie in that moment because you don't expect that, especially in a Wes Anderson movie. It doesn't feel like something that's coming. But he plays both halves of the character so well that it's hard to even imagine or pinpoint which is the true person and which is the act.
I've spent a lot of time because I also rewatched all of Wes Anderson's films this year. Fun fact, I did that on a beach in Hawaii. I just had my iPad out, just like sitting there watching Wes Anderson films, which lovely way to spend time. But like the thing that I kept thinking about is like actors who fit the mold of Wes Anderson. I think Wes Anderson does such a good job of casting that most everybody in his movies feels so well utilized in them. But I was trying to think like who would be actors that I'd want to see in a Wes Anderson film? Like who are those types of performances? And I think the thing that I kept coming with Michael Cera in this film was like, after watching the film, I described Michael Cera as like 2008 LeBron James, like just could do no wrong. He was the perfect, like everything that he was doing, he was like at the top of his powers. I found it so incredible. But the thing that I went into the movie was just like, oh yeah, Michael Cera in a Wes Anderson movie, like duh. And I also noticed myself having that connection with films and performances as well, where I think it's an obvious choice. And I'm like, yeah, of course they're going to fit this mode of like operations. And then I see the film and I'm like, they're surpassing even my high expectations of what I would assume they sound and look like in this movie. That was what I just enjoyed so much about this performance from Michael Cera. I think it's so comedically gifted. The switch that you're talking about, I just think the way even he messes up his hair in that moment to just like look a little bit different. I found it so delightful. That's kind of my review of the Phoenician scene. I'm kind of like you. I can't really tell you the details of the movie. It didn't really bother me. I'm just there for the
me neither. I was just along for the ride. Yeah. So that part just washed over me.
Yeah, I can just watch this film and feel happy. And that's how I felt about the Michael Cera performance. I think this one is it's my turn again. I have a performance for a film that is probably my least favorite film on this list in terms of quality. But this was the one where I'm like, the performance is kind of undeniable for me that I felt like a need to put it on. It's David Jonsson for The Long Walk. Francis Lawrence's adaptation of a Stephen King novella. I wanted to like this movie more than I did. I found myself like incredibly engrossed in certain moments of this film. The ending is bad. Like the ending kind of ruined the film for me. What works so much about this film though, and this is also in many ways like also a nod to Cooper Hoffman, who I also think is incredible in this film. This is 2-star performers going for it, captivating you for about an hour and 40 minutes, fully on their chemistry, dialogue, and conversation. I think David Jonsson has the harder role being the supporting to Cooper Hoffman in this movie. And what I found so great about David Jonsson, and it's the thing that I've liked about him the most, how effortless it feels. When I'm watching him, I don't feel acting. I feel like I'm just watching somebody do their thing, and it feels so natural. And I think for The Long Walk, that's the reason when the movie's working for me, is when it just does feel like two guys having real conversations in the most fucked up of circumstances.
Yeah, my take after this movie was they're the future of Hollywood, those two. They're just so clearly on the right path career-wise, and they have the goods. And yeah, David Jonsson here is so like he in a movie that is upsetting, he gives it the human edge to remind you why it's upsetting, not just conceptually, but like individually.
Yeah, no, what I love about this performance from him is his ability to keep your eye on the prize, almost, for lack of better words, of like, this is what this film is about. This is the horror of this film. Let's talk about this and like, let's have something grounded. Like, I think this is the groundedness in the story about authoritarianism and fascism. Like I said, I thought it was pretty incredible for a film that I didn't feel loving coming out of it. I've remembered his performance since. Cody, what's your next nomination here?
So next up, for me, it is also from a movie that I do not think is good and probably is the worst movie on this list. But I think what Ariana Grande does in Wicked for Good must be commended. She's even better in this movie than she was in the first movie. She's by far the best and most successful aspect of Wicked for Good. I think if you chart her character's journey across both movies, it is kind of the most compelling aspect of the Wicked story is where she goes and where she, it ebbs and flows from privilege to finding some aspect of connection to another person to just leaning into doing what she needs to do to get ahead. And then that's most of Wicked for Good. And then she finally finds reconciliation within herself. I don't think in the text of this, I almost said show. I know this show very well. I love musical theater. I don't think in the text of Wicked, the property, it is maybe the most elegantly tracked on the screenplay level, but what she is able to do with it is kind of incredible. Everybody talked about her comedic timing in the first movie. It's a revelation, and that is true here as well. But the pathos and depths of emotionality that she's able to bring to this performance is incredible. The best moment of Wicked for Good by far is just about her face. It's a moment where the camera is trained on her and the film kind of breaks its filmmaking form up to that point, which thank God, because it's a poorly shot film. But in that one moment where she's in shallow close up thinking about what to do and ends with use her sister, it's a really stunning moment of character coming to a decision in the moment on camera. Also, she just sings the hell out of the score. Obviously, she sounds amazing. It's kind of the ideal musical performance in that she knows the character so well. She can sing it, which is not true of most people in Wicked, and she invests it with the emotion needed to sell the story.
I will let you take back that idea that Jeff Goldblum does not sell the song in this movie. So if you want, no. He's the other performance in this movie that I kind of like click with in the second half. I here's my thoughts on Wicked for Good, which was a movie that I generally liked. Not loved, but like had a good time with.
I feel about the same. I think the impression it has on me is better than the actual execution.
Yes, I think that's the correct way to say it. And I go back to this thing David Sims said, either in one of his articles or maybe on Blank Check, when the idea that Wicked was going to be split into 2 parts, that is great news for Wicked Part 1. And I love Wicked, the Broadway play. I've seen it now twice on Broadway. And somebody asked me earlier this year, is it your favorite musical? And I said no, solely because I can't get over the second act, which I think on stage is also just not particularly strong. I don't think the second act has really clicked or worked with me. I still enjoy the experience, but I do find some of the writing in it just like pretty abysmal. I was hoping with Wicked for Good, I was going to have the reaction of like, you know what? They did such a good job with the first movie. I really was charmed by the first movie. They're now have a 2-hour, 20-minute runtime. My issue with the play was always that like it felt so rushed. It was like an hour stage production for the second half.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be able to flesh it out a little bit. Like maybe this will work. And then like I watched the film and I'm like, how is it just like the hour on stage, but stretched out to 2 hours and 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Like I really don't get it.
Here's the thing. Most musicals are bad in their second act. That's kind of the way it works. It's hard to split a traditional Western 3-act narrative into halves, which means that most of it weighs on act 1, the exciting buildup, and it usually ends in something approximating a climax, if not on the story level in terms of like the emotion, just so that you get the audience back in their seat. Like the list of musicals that have a better act 2 is so slim. I could name them on like my fingers. So yeah, to your point, it was always going to be worse than part 1. So I don't know why they didn't use that and try to change things besides adding 2 bad songs.
The songs are so bad. I couldn't believe how bad the 2 songs were.
That comes okay, but the Girl in the Bubble is really boring.
Oh, I thought I was the other way. I liked the Girl in the Bubble a little bit more than I liked.
See, I didn't like the Girl in the Bubble because I don't like a song that sounds like it's being improvised as it's being sung.
That's
There's
fair.
no way to track it.
Neither of the songs are particularly strong. I would have had Ariana Grande as my favorite performance given by an actress this year. If you didn't have it on your list, I think this is a revelation. I think, and I've always been a fan of her. I was one of the ones kind of defending the casting originally because I'm like, you know what? Like I've seen her on SNL. She can really hit those comedic beats. I'm also a little bit more familiar with her as a comedic actress, just being a little bit younger. I at least dabbled in Victorious.
Okay.
In my preteens. I wouldn't say I watched it, but like I was familiar with her as a comedic presence. So I had a feeling she could do that side of it, which I knew was going to suit her very well for part one. The evolution of acting that you see in part two, I think was like incredible. I was truly bought over by her performance. It's my favorite supporting performance of this year. Like I was truly moved by it. And she's the only thing keeping that movie from like just being like a disaster. I legitimately think she gets that movie to 3 stars. That's no diss on Cynthia Erivo. I just think that character is also just not particularly well executed in the second half either.
Yeah.
Glinda is kind of the heartbeat of that movie. And the fact that she carries it over. I was really rooting for her to get the best supporting actress nom. I was just hoping that was going to be the one that they gave it to for Wicked. The fact that blanked, I was sad about it.
They just hated the movie. It was a concerted effort. Yeah.
They did not like it. I kind of was like expecting it to some degree where I'm like, okay, either they're going to fully embrace this movie because they like the musical and enough people understood it was going to be like this, or they're going to be a full-on revolt. And it felt like the latter happened the entire season for Wicked. We don't have to spend much more time on Wicked. Like I said, I did adore this performance as well. I had it high on my list. I believe I'm next up. Oh, this is really perfect. I also have a musical on my list right here. This is another movie that I found maybe not fully successful, although I thought the movie was better than I was originally going in expecting. I have Diego Luna for Kiss of the Spider Woman on this list. I was not excited to go into this movie, to say the least. Like, I'm not a huge J-Lo fan all the time. She's good in some stuff, but she's generally not my cup of tea, especially when I felt her pronouncing herself as like, oh, this is my Oscar movie. And I will just say it. I thought she was maybe the weakest of the three in Kiss of the Spider Woman. I don't know if that's a controversial take, but like, I was stunned by Diego Luna in this movie. I found this such a beautiful performance, and this whole arc that he goes through as this political prisoner in, is it Argentina? Is that where they are? And this connection that these true men form in a jail cell as they're bonding over the Spider-Woman played by J-Lo. This story of transformation, the story of acceptance of one another, learning who they are, and then this friendship / love story that develops throughout it. I think Diego Luna, for me, while watching it, you talked about this idea of like the pathos, like the heart of a movie. The way he gives himself up to this performance, and specifically the finale of it, where freedom is achieved for some people and not others, and how that has a lasting impact, and the reason why we fight, even if we're all not going to come out of it. The tragedy of the movie is also the beauty of the movie, which is captured perfectly in the final moments with Diego Luna holding a scarf. I was bawling my eyes out at the movie, especially at its finale. I was so incredibly charmed and taken over by what Diego Luna does in Kiss of the Spider Woman. It's been a while since I've seen it, so some of the details itself are a little fuzzy, but that feeling that I had watching this performance like has stuck with me.
I'm not going to say much because he is my least favorite of the three. So I'm going to let you just have this. Yeah. This movie for me is, it's so close to greatness. I think it's
flirting with it the whole time.
Absolutely. The approximation of the Technicolor and the musical sequences is like so close to being correct that it makes me more frustrated that they tried and didn't go all the way than if they hadn't tried at all. So that's tough.
Who's the director on this film?
Bill Condon.
Who is it?
Bill Condon.
Oh, duh. Yeah.
Who is, he has a questionable filmography.
Yeah.
But I do think the performances are good. He is just my least favorite of the three. So again, I'm gonna let you just take this one.
Yeah, no, totally understand. Like I said, this movie, I think the way you called it is like it's close to greatness is how I felt the entire time watching this movie was like I I was at times ready to just say like this is one of the best movies of the year. And then like the next scene would happen. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
a little poorly shot or directed. But there's moments in the film, and I'm blanking on the actor who plays his uh his cellmate in the movie. I'm blanking on the
Tonatiuh?
actor's name. Who is it?
Tonatiuh?
Yes, another
I might be
performance
pronouncing
that
it wrong. I
was
apologize.
yeah, another performance that I found incredibly charming in this movie, and I think he is a lot of the magic of this movie. I think also in some ways Diego Luna might also be on this list as an acknowledgement of like Andor in many ways, which is probably my favorite thing that I've watched this year.
Sure.
Where it's just like he's another guy. I have this thing with Diego Luna where he reminds and looks so much like my grandfather younger. And like he really looks like him to me. And I didn't get to know my grandpa really well. I think he died when I was like 5 or 6, but like the way he's described in movies, or sorry, the way that Diego Luna is seen in movies is kind of the way my grandpa has been described to me in like, in his life. So like watching it, I think there's also that just emotional connection that I have with Diego Luna where I can really just feel transported by him. So that's more of a personal thing with him, but it's also just one of the reasons I've always really responded to Diego Luna on film. I'll let you jump in with your next one.
Next up is a performance that I think is not by far, because I like this movie, but is definitely the thing that most people walk out of this movie talking about. Oona Chaplin in Avatar: Fire and Ash as Varong.
I wanted it so bad.
What a delicious performance. What an incredible character. She just takes the movie, and we're talking about temperature rising. I mean, she is the fact that in an Avatar movie, in a James Cameron movie, my favorite scene is a dialogue scene between her and Stephen Lang that goes on for a long time, where they trip out. And it's the best scene in the movie and one of the best scenes in the franchise. That's entirely because of their performances. Yeah, it's amazing. He is also up there for me.
I almost had Stephen Lang. I was going to put him on, but I'm like, Chaplin's the clear one here.
She's amazing. She's amazing. And I think I don't think James Cameron did this intentionally, but to me, she serves as a counter argument to people saying these movies aren't memorable. You can't name any of the characters. She's going to be around for a long time. She's going to be a costume at Halloween time. People are going to go see the next movie because of her. Yeah. So yeah, just an incredible performance. And it's so poetic that the granddaughter of Charlie Chaplin, 100 years after he was doing his thing, is additionally revolutionizing the way that performances are quite literally captured on film. It's just perfect.
That 10-minute sequence that you were talking about in Avatar: Fire and Ash is like pure crack to me. I've seen it twice in theaters, and like when it is happening, I feel myself like levitating. I find it just so great filmmaking. I love these films. I have no problem saying that. Yeah, I think these three films are, if not masterpieces, like just totally up my alley. I think it is so cool what James Cameron does with these films. I find it such bold, exciting filmmaking. This edition of Chaplin in this film, it is exactly what you talked about. It's this idea of like, there's no memorable characters. Watch this film and I would challenge you to say there's something not memorable about this. And I also think it really makes the villain, and I always mispronounce his name, Stephen Lang's, is it
Quaritch?
Quaritch. Yeah. Like, he's another one where it's just like, I was talking about it with a friend recently because I have a buddy who's also just obsessed with this. We talk about it like it's Star Wars, like where we're going into the lore on it. But like the evolution of the Stephen Lang character in these films, it's like the first one, he's a kind of a generic, villain. I kind of don't think it's a pretty memorable performance. The second one, I find it quite elevated. And then this third one, I'm like, anytime he's on screen, I'm like, fuck yeah, he's here. Like this he gets it. And so much of it is also just like him opposite Byrne. This movie's just like everything she does, like the 10-minute sequence. Like I'm getting excited talking about it. Like I'm like, maybe after this recording, I wonder if we can go see Avatar again. Like the fact that like the most memorable scene in this movie is them taking space drugs, space ayahuasca. I can't pronounce that word very well.
Ayahuasca. Yeah.
Ayahuasca. And like fucking by attaching their braids together is just like the best moment of a movie that also has this Fire Clan kamikazing themselves and setting themselves on fire and crashing on others. Like the fact that that is the most memorable scene in this movie is kind of a testament to how good she is. It's ferocious, it's sexy, it's sensual, it's creepy, it's upsetting. She hits everything. Incredible.
Totally. Yeah.
Just an exciting performance. Is it me now? Yeah, because you just did Chaplin. Okay. This feels like such a weird pick after talking about Chaplin. I am talking about a performance for a movie that I was far more positive than everyone else was. The reception of this movie just the entire year seemed to be, oh, this is Oscar bait. It doesn't work. This performance isn't even that good. So I went into Jake Kelly with a little bit of low expectations. And I'll be damned. I watched George Clooney on here, and I'm like, that's a fucking movie star. This guy gets it. I felt every emotion that he's trying to do. The whole narrative that this film was Oscar bait and that like this was a celebration of Hollywood, like, you know, that the whole thing of like, oh, this is like Hollywood like celebrating itself. I watched the movie and I'm like, where's that coming from? Like, I didn't really understand that criticism because I'm like, this is actually a very sad human being that Jay Kelly is. Like, his existence is tragic and the film never lets him off the hook. It is a performance that is so fascinated on George Clooney, the actor and the person, and what that means to be a personality so mega famous for his entire life now, it seems like. It's going on 30 plus years. And while watching the movie, there's just scenes with it where I was just like, wow, it's so crazy that he is willing to go this vulnerable and this ugly about himself. Because you can say, you know, he's playing a character, but it's such a clearly mapped biography on him. It's those characters share so many similarities that it's hard to imagine that like a lot of this movie isn't coming from some form of an emotional truth that Clooney is tapping into. And the emptiness of celebrity, which is, I think, something that George Clooney in his performance captures just brilliantly, is this feeling of just like, it's the scene where he's looking at himself in a mirror and repeating his name. It's this vanity project that he's doing, but it's also, I think, very hollow and empty. And the fact that he's able to touch on all of those elements, I personally love this film. This is another one that made my top 10. And it's really largely because of the Clooney performance. I found it so profoundly moving, and this idea of watching a character realize, hey, I've done this with my life and there's no going back. Unlike my movie characters where I can ask for another take. I don't get this, and I now just kind of have to sit with it. And the closest connection I will ever have with another human being is the guy who's my friend, but also I have to pay him to be my friend. Like, I just found it quite beautiful.
Yeah, the movie didn't work as much for me as it did for you, and I liked the movie. It just didn't stick with me very long after I saw it for the first time. But what Clooney does is just, it's the kind of thing you can't teach. It's charm. It's knowing exactly how you are on camera. It's effortless. And that ending got to me. That ending always kind of gets to me, that type of let's look at your life. And, you know, like going back to 8.5 and even things before that. But yeah, it really does make you appreciate both the man and the character in that one moment.
It's just like this effortless feeling. It's kind of perfectly realized, and this is, I think, the genius of Baumbach in the script. It's the scene where Clooney's on a train, or I should say Jake Kelly is on a train talking to everybody, and how little it feels like Clooney needs to act in that moment.
Mhm.
Where it's just like, hey, you could imagine Clooney doing this exact same type of conversation, having this persona, this idea that like he feels so tangible. He feels like you can reach out and touch him. Like he does just feel so accessible in a way that I think is really challenging for an actor to come across, especially someone as mega famous, where it's just like he is so famous that we all have a relationship with him in one way or another. And to be able to bring that to the movie and reflect on that in a way that I think isn't flattering.
Yeah.
I found it really cool. I thought Clooney does really great work in this movie. It's one of my favorites of the year. Which brings us to your next one.
Yeah, who do I have next? Okay, this is a fun one. I really wanted this movie to take off more than it did, and I blame the streamer that it was sitting on for not doing so. But Nina Haas in Hedda is such a. I just use the word delicious, I think, for Oona Chaplin. I'm going to use it again here. I'm sorry. The way that the adaptation takes this character that I haven't read the play in a long time, I believe is a male character in the original play, and turns it into a female character. And it totally works in part because of Nina Haas's performance. She is unpredictable. She is compelling. The scene where she gets drunk is so both funny, but also it makes me nervous because you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. Just really amazing work here.
This is a performance. I saw this film, and I wish I got a chance to revisit it. The film itself left me, I would say, a little cold. It wasn't like fully for me. I also didn't have that relationship with the source material that you were referring to. I was also pretty taken by this performance. One of the unfortunate things is I saw this movie sick. So like even like my memories of this movie is very hazy. I agree there is this electricity to her performance that when you see it on screen, it's stuck with me out of the film that, again, my memories of it are very hazy, but the feeling that I get out of it, that's kind of how I judge performances. I'm not classically trained as an actor. I never took classes on it. I never had an understanding of it. Usually my feeling of it is like, do I think about it months later? And for a film that I really, like I said, I can't tell you much about, that was a performance that stuck with me. So I think that's a really good indication of her.
Yeah, part of it is also the way that the character is framed by the director, Nia DaCosta. She gets an amazing entrance, and she gets, because of one specific costume, she has a really memorable moment. So the film is doing a lot to make her an impressionable character in terms of the audience's takeaway, but it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for her totally committed performance.
No, I totally agree. I think this is a really good pick for a film that, you're right, just it was Prime, right? It was Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I mean, they dropped the ball on even trying to campaign it. I don't even think did they even give it a proper FYC?
It got some stuff, but it wasn't quite. The ball was clearly not rolling organically, except for maybe the costumes, but didn't happen.
Talking about a film that just kind of like came and went. My whatever number we're on right now, I have Dwayne "The Rock" Jonsson for the Smashing Machine. This movie was like a 3 out of 5. I watched it and I was like, this kind of worked for me. Doesn't really click all the time. Have no clue what the Emily Blunt character was. Like no clue.
God.
and I love the Safdies, and I love Benny's work in particular. I have to fully admit though, Dwayne as Mark Kerr, as the Smashing Machine, I really did think was incredible. Like, I was pretty taken by this performance in a way that, like, again, I heard this performance classified as Oscar bait, and we don't have to go into a whole conversation of what is and isn't Oscar bait. The thing that stuck with me about this performance was actually how much it did play against Type 4 Jonsson. I thought this was going to feel like, for lack of a better word, Oscar bait. Like, I felt like it was going to be more him playing himself and like doing it more in a dramatic sense. He's very tonally different, and also the film itself is very odd. This is not the. I think when we were going into the Smashing Machine and we knew or had read stories about Mark Kerr, we had this idea of like maybe Raging Bull. I think was probably the one a lot of people were maybe mapping onto this film. You see the rise and then you see the fall. This film's like really interesting in the fact that like the fall happens in the first hour of the movie and he never really climbs back up again. And it's like, how does one person now just kind of live in their life? No longer being the best at what they once did, where they were championed as the best. What does that look like? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson also just plays it extremely sincere and vulnerable. And it's hard for somebody like The Rock, who is just so big, right? Like as a popularity, but also just as a physical human being,
literally
takes up so much of the screen, which is something that I actually do commend Benny Safdie in his direction. Like there are moments where The Rock quite literally fills the screen. What I found so like just wonderful about this performance though is how soft he is in multiple moments in it. One of my favorite scenes, it's my favorite scene in the movie, is it's when he and Emily Blunt go to a carnival. And it's this decision, and it's probably a script one, but I think Jonsson actually sells it quite well. They're going on this roller coaster that just spins you around and around. And he's looking at it and you can see him getting queasy. And he just keeps talking about like, oh, my tummy. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this. Like, you go on without me. And it's this moment where you're able to kind of just strip this guy down and make him feel real and honest. And it doesn't feel like he's doing it as a joke or like in any fashion that like, it's weird that this grown man is saying tummy. Like, I don't know how
weird, but yeah.
It's a little weird, but like he sells that scene. Like it's moments like that where while watching the film, I was just like, wow, he's really stripping it all away and hitting something that I found vulnerable. And it's again, it's even some of the moments like the way he cries in this film, which is from my understanding, almost a direct reference to how Mark Kerr in the documentary cries. Like he does the thing where he covers his eyes, like so no one can see his face when he's crying.
Yeah,
the way Jonsson hits beats like that in this movie, I really did just find sincere. I know there's a lot of cynicism that can be had with the way The Rock has conducted his career, especially the last decade or so, to the point that he's making a film like this and that he was clearly campaigning for an Oscar. But I'll be damned, when I watched the film, I was like, I'm pretty moved by this performance in a film that I otherwise don't believe gets there.
So I was higher on the film than most, especially higher than I thought I would be when I was going in. I have no experience in the world of any sort of fighting sport. And I did not know who Mark Kerr was before this movie.
Yeah.
But what he does in this movie is, to your point, sensitive without being maudlin or over the top. I think the screenplay is kind of a disaster for the two characters. They paint them as, it's like, saint and sinner. It's so broad, and I haven't seen the original documentary, so maybe that's true to life or true to nonfiction film, but it doesn't work on a writing level. But what he and Emily Blunt do to invest them with humanity is so laudable.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the scene where you can see The Rock like walk, or you can see Mark Kerr walk out of the ring after losing, and you feel every emotion that he has at that moment. That realization, I'm no longer the best. I'm no longer the prime example of a fighter. I have been passed by, and I now just like, what does that mean for me in my life? And the film doesn't give answers to that. It's not easy going with how it approaches Mark Kerr. Like I said, this film didn't fully get there for me, but I did find the performance pretty astonishing. So that's my performance here. What's your next one?
Next up, I got a performance, also a leading actor that I saw at Venice, Jesse Plemons in Bugonia.
Okay, yeah.
I'm so bummed that this did not become the awards performance in the way that his co-stars did,
Yeah.
owing to a lot of reasons. The Best Actor field is so crowded this year. Emma Stone is, I think, becoming kind of a default nominee. I get it. She's amazing. But what Jesse Plemons does in this movie, if you can make me feel sympathy for this type of character, bravo. Because, wow, would I normally not give a fuck about what this guy has to say?
Sure.
But he is so focused and frightening in his focus. And you don't believe everything he says, but you believe that he believes it, which is tough when he's saying some of the things he says and believes in this movie and some of the things he does with such a cold-minded, like laser focus. It's really amazing work. And he's somebody that's been so exciting to watch in the past decade or so. I first noticed him on Breaking Bad. And the fact that he's become one of like the go-to prestige actors for auteurs is just so thrilling to watch.
I had him last year on my list of best performances of 2024 for Civil War. Like, and I think this is kind of the flip side of that performance. It's a character that I think has a lot of more similarities in maybe how they view the world and what has led them to these moments. I think the Civil War performance is menacing and lacks humanity, where this performance has probably a lot of the same characteristics in what led them to this moment. But I think what Bugonia does so well about it is how much sympathy and empathy it has for this character Jesse Plemons plays. The tragedy of this movie being there are emotional truths that I believe he feels is real, but there's actual truths that are there as well. And I think that's kind of the brilliance of Yorgos's screenplay in this movie. Yorgos being a guy that I like, that I don't always love his sensibilities, this being a film that I loved from him. The thing that I found really just like incredible about this Jesse Plemons performance as it's used by Yorgos is this idea of like what leads somebody to conspiracy theory, which is finding the few things that are true in life and then spiraling from them. So there are truths of this. There are truths of like wealth inequality and how that happens. Like there are moments of this film. Like there's this whole idea of like pharmaceutical companies profiting off of you. Like obviously then everything that he goes from there to understand in this conspiracy theory that he's made up isn't true. But I found the fact that he's able to localize this idea of like, no, this is why somebody who otherwise would probably be fairly kind-hearted and normal would lose themselves to this.
Yeah.
And Plemons is electric off Stone. Stone was another one. This is my favorite of the Emma Stone Yorgos collaborations. I think she's electric in this movie. I felt the same way about Plemons in this movie. I think he carries so much of the heavy load of this movie for doing exactly what you described, which is I shouldn't be rooting for him and I shouldn't care about this guy or want to hear anything from him. And yet at every moment I have this like feeling of sadness towards him where I'm like, wow, this really does suck. Like
it sucks.
it's like it's a really bad situation. I understand why, like you almost had no chance. And I think that's what Yorgos is really getting through in this. He was going to be broken by this system that spit him out and chewed him out. Like the fact that Jesse Plemons is able to tap into that and I think portray somebody with real empathy. That's the thing that I found so incredible about the Plemons performance is this isn't a caricature. This is somebody willing to commit to like, there is real ugliness in there, but in that ugliness, there is something still resembling humanity. How do I find that humanity and convey it to you so you feel sadness towards this entire situation? It's an electric, incredible performance from Plemons that I love. This is actually a great transition. I've noticed this with a lot of our films is I feel like there's a lot of thematic tropes that we're hitting with some of these characters. This is another performance for me from an actor and for a character that I shouldn't feel any sympathy or empathy towards, and I think it's the credit to Joaquin Phoenix in Eddington that
Uh-huh.
Sheriff Joe Cross, I did understand him, and there is real empathy towards that character as well. Now, I will say Joe Cross is far more of a psychopath, I would maybe classify, than Jesse Plemons in Bugonia. I think this character is extremely dangerous and violent and upsetting in especially the last hour of this movie. What I found so incredible about Joaquin Phoenix in Eddington, which was a film that I was dreading going into and then walked away loving, was his willingness to me. Okay, for me, to put this in context, the way people talked about Joker, that performance,
Okay. Yeah.
is everything that I kind of like walked out thinking about Joe Cross in this movie, where I'm like, this is the one where I'm like, I understand this guy. I understand what broke him. I understand everything that led to this moment. This is another film that I think has a lot of similarities to Bugonia in
Mhm.
the emotional truths that it's capturing on America at this moment in this day and age of capitalism. What I'm trying to put to words how I felt watching this performance. I felt scared. Like I
Yeah.
really felt this unstable quality to Joe Cross that I think what Phoenix taps into is something that I didn't really want to know about and then couldn't look away while watching, which is like, why do people resort to MAGA extremism? And I think this film gets the closest to answering some of it, which is just like, hey, when you're addicted to your phone and you don't have any other source of news and you're uneducated and all these other elements on top of conspiracy, on top of the fact that this mayor is screwing you over and is screwing over your town and is putting away the sanctuary of your city, like all of these ideas mixed into it. And you can agree or disagree with some of the politics that Ari Aster is playing fast and loose with in this film. I think very purposefully. But I think that Joaquin Phoenix being able to tap into all of that and create this character in Joe Cross that is violent, that is dangerous, that is, for lack of a better word, like he does have the Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver turn in him in this movie. I found it pretty remarkable to watch transpire.
Yeah, for me, this movie in general, but also this character, is not interested in capturing anything declarative or stating anything declarative, rather,
Sure.
about 2020 and the modern world. I think it is more about just capturing it, what it felt like and what it feels like.
Yeah.
Almost like, this is a weird comparison, but I feel similarly about Nashville. Like Nashville feels like it captures the paranoia and the energy of like post 60s radicalism, rather than saying anything like, this is why people shoot people, or this is why people
Yeah.
love America or hate America. And for me, the thing about Joaquin Phoenix's performance in this is that it captures the frightening unpredictability of people who are far right and lean towards violence, because there's very little grounded in reality in terms of consequence or sense. It is more about following a gut need to do something, and you see that in the way he like makes that statement about Peter Pascal's character, where he just starts saying inflammatory things about him with seemingly no plan, or the way he quite literally goes through the execution of the extension of that plan. It's very, you know, much the current rights method of, I'm not thinking long term, just in this moment,
Sure.
this is how it makes me feel and I have to react to it. And I do think Joaquin Phoenix captures that with a surprising gentleness. Like
Yes.
he has a low level reasonability to him. Like you see it in the grocery store scene where he's trying to reason with the people trying to make him and the old guy put a mask on, where even if you don't agree with what he's saying, which like obviously he's being so annoying, and I,
Sure.
as somebody who was working in customer service in 2020, oh my god,
Yeah.
but he approaches it in a way that is, you know, affable and trying to be reasonable. He just has the wrong reasons to do so. And that like gentleness, Joaquin Phoenix is so good at capturing that.
I think like the thing that I take away from Ari Aster is he's very much a reactionary filmmaker. And I heard a lot of talk about Eddington. Was this film too soon? Which I think was a misunderstanding of this film, because it's just like,
Yeah.
it's exactly what you're describing. It's like, if we were to allow this 10 more years where we have the benefit of hindsight, the film looks completely different. He's kind of writing with fire, where it's just like he is playing with fire in this movie, where it's just like, I don't understand all of it. I don't really get it, but like, I'm just going to put it to screen, and some of it's probably going to age poorly. Some of it will age well. There will be truths in here. There's probably going to be a lot of things that end up not being great about it, but let's just put it all, because I think it captures the mood and mindset of June of 2020. I think the scene that I keep coming back to with Joaquin Phoenix in there is how at times he can feel not noble. Noble's not the right word in certain scenes, but like, I guess reasonable, as you described it, is like, there's the scene where he originally meets with the protesters regarding BLM, and like, he's not like, he's trying to take it at that moment at face value. Like, he's trying to understand them for a second. Like, he's not going fully, like, for lack of a better words, like far right extremism at that moment. It's how that character devolves. I kind of find it very similarly to like Alice in Wonderland, where it's like he keeps following this idea of like, how does one person get radicalized? And it's all these little things that then lead to someone being the most violent, upsetting, distressing character you've seen. I think Joaquin Phoenix takes that journey in this film in a way that's very just uncomfortable. And I think the genius of the film is how the film decides to leave this character of Joe Cross as kind of sort of a martyr, but also being exploited by the institutions at play, how they're able to use them for whatever agenda that they're trying to serve. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter, because the corporation gets everything at the end. It still gets exactly what it wants.
Exactly. Like, we're all fighting for nothing here.
Yeah.
we're all gonna lose.
It's so empty. It's the emptiest, most upsetting, cynical movie of the year, and I thought Phoenix really just nails it. What's your next one here?
Next up, I got Dylan O'Brien in Twinless, pulling double duty here as two characters.
I watched it this morning.
Okay, so it's
Right
fresh. I watched it over a year ago at Sundance, so we're at complete opposite ends of recency. But what he does here is just so impactful, and there's a lot of talk, as you know, how well he played the gay character, and like, as a gay guy who knows a lot of gay guys, yeah, he nailed it. But the way he plays the living straight brother also is a character. You know, it's not just Dylan O'Brien playing himself and then this gay twin. He's playing a kind of well-meaning bro-y guy who wants to honor his brother in ways that he both understood and didn't understand, and it's just really impactful work. Again, I watched this a long time ago, so I don't have the freshest memory. So what did you think of it?
So, okay, I don't know why this movie had kind of passed by my radar until I saw it again on your list. So that was like, okay, I need to go see this movie, or I need to watch this movie on streaming. And I haven't made up my mind yet about the actual movie itself. I don't know if it worked for me. I will say that Dylan O'Brien performance in this movie is like incredible. I was floored by him. I think the idea of, yeah, you're right. The fact that he played two very different brothers and twins in this movie, it's the scene in the hotel that he has the first time around where he uses what's the director / actor in this movie's name?
James Sweeney.
Yeah, that sounds James Sweeney, where he uses James Sweeney as a stand-in for his dead twin, and this confrontation that he has. I found it very moving. I found how Dylan O'Brien is able to articulate grief very real and upsetting. And the way that he plays bro in this movie, like the way that he plays well-meaning but dumb and head forward but trying to do better and like
Yeah.
having this like real relationship with a woman, and like you see him evolving and changing through that. Like the way he understands violence in this film is very fascinating. Like when he starts apologizing for it near the end of the film, it's moments like that where I was really just captured by Dylan O'Brien in this movie, where what I found very impactful from him was he is a guy going through life not knowing anymore how to feel. And the one moment that he finally starts getting connection again and starts feeling like a part of the world, what happens when that all becomes a lie and that lie begins to unravel and what that becomes of it. Uh, I forget the actress's name in the film who plays his girlfriend in the movie, the redhead. She's incredible in the
Yes, do
movie. I think
I.
she plays it
Let's
so
see.
much with humanity. She's another one where it's just like she understands the inherent sadness, not only on his side, but from James Sweeney's character, where she understands, oh, this is a broken guy too. Like
Mhm.
he shouldn't hate him either. Like there is real, like there's reasons this happened, and like trying to give them both the space to explore that. She really worked for me, but yeah, I think Dylan O'Brien, like the moments that he has in this film, where it is about grief, where it is about trying to find a path forward through the unthinkable of death, but specifically losing somebody you're so close to, and the idea of like him feeling like that he didn't get to express himself. I think that the way that these two characters express their masculinity, and especially the way that the 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 one that is straight, I'm blanking on the brothers' names in this movie, but
Yeah, I don't know.
the way that you see this internalized like masculinity in him, like this idea of like I'm not supposed to show emotion, like I'm supposed to hold in a lot of this, and like the way those eccentricities come out. There's this excellent scene where he has a fight with his mom when they go home for
Yeah.
Christmas, and it's just like I think that's very real, especially for I'm someone who's been doing therapy this year, so like some of this is like me also like putting myself in this guy's shoes, but like this feeling of like I don't have control over my life, but like there's this one element that I have control on, and I'm going to be obsessive, and it has to be done this way. And that's how I'm kind of processing grief. It's also, like I said, the redheaded actress in this movie. It's one of my favorite moments where she's just like, they're just grieving. Like she understands that like this fight that he and his mom are having in this moment
Mhm.
isn't because out of like hatred or anything. It's just like how they're both processing the death of someone. Like I said, I don't know if this movie fully got there for me. The James Sweeney character, like it's such a hard character to get there with, I guess, in many ways. Like I don't want to spoil this movie because the movie really works due to the twist and turns that it takes, but I didn't fully connect with it by the end, but I really appreciated what Dylan O'Brien is doing in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Uh I'll speed this along because I know we gotta start wrapping some of this up. But next one on my list, this one was just another one where it just like kind of felt like a revelation watching this, where I'm like, I don't know how in a movie with Denzel Washington and Jeffrey Wright that ASAP Rocky ended up kind of being my favorite performance in this movie.
Sure.
I Him as Young Thug in Highest to Lowest, I just thought this was again a confident performance. The fact that he's going toe to toe with Denzel, and I think matching Denzel, and in a few scenes, like doing better than Denzel. Like, and I think it's probably Spike Lee's brilliance of being able to cast somebody who knows this world very well and
Mhm.
can, you know, play with the dialogue in a way that just feels very real. But what ASAP Rocky does in this movie and in another movie, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which is he's also very good in that movie. I just found it again. What I take away is just somebody who I didn't know had any skill in him as an actor. And I watch the performance and I think wow, I'm kind of blown away by everything that you're achieving in this moment. The fact that he has the charisma to match Denzel, who in that moment is peak Denzel charisma, I just found electric. And I keep using this word electric, but that's how I felt watching this movie, where I'm just like, this movie, when it works, because it doesn't always work. I don't think this movie is a perfect movie. I think it's pretty messy in a few scenes. The Denzel ASAP Rocky confrontation in the final 20 minutes of this movie is about as exciting of a movie as you'll watch this year. I think it's so well captured. And again, Young Thug is this guy that he feels very real to 2025, which is something that I didn't know Spike Lee still had it in him. Spike Lee's as about as talented of a director as you can get, but I've always felt of him more of the old guard. This he's reflecting on stuff that he understands. The fact that he understands internet celebrity as well that he does in this movie, the way that this movie is in many ways the king of comedy, with the Rupert Pupkin character now being Young Thug in this movie, the way that this character seeks fame, the way that this character uses the internet to his benefit, the way that everyone kind of understands the vilification and all of that happens on social media and how to weaponize that and how to use it, all of that. ASAP Rocky feels so natural in this part, and I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this film in general. I thought this was a pretty good film that at times flirted with greatness, and I still really liked what it does. But I thought ASAP Rocky and Denzel are two of the huge reasons for that.
Yeah, I don't know what conversation ASAP Rocky had with his management team about, I think I want to try acting this year, but clearly it was an effective one, because he's giving two great performances in two completely different, not typical movies that you might expect somebody who coming from the world he comes from to hop into. The pipeline from rap star to film about a like mother going through a midlife crisis. That isn't usually something that happens. But the scene between him and Denzel in this movie, it only works because of the talents of those two actors, because it's kind of a ridiculous premise. Like, you'd think in that moment, Denzel would just want to end it, but instead he leans into what A$AP Rocky is giving him. And yeah, it's a very 2025 character in that he's opportunistic no matter the cost. Like, there's no bad way to get your foot in the door as long as it's in the door.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of the testament to A$AP Rocky in this film, and in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, is the fact that his screen partners for a majority of his screen time in the movie is Rose Byrne and Denzel Washington. The fact that he's going toe to toe with them is kind of a testament to how good he is in it. Like I said, I just absolutely adored what he does in Highest to Lowest. It's a very memorable scene in this movie that I think he knocks out of the park. Which brings us to your next performance. So I think we're down to our last five. I have
this
four
is my
more.
Number 4, and it's the last man I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
So this is my favorite lead actor performance of the year, Lee Byung-hun in No Other Choice. Just an amazing piece of anger is too simple. Desperation is too simple. Somebody at the end of the rope craze is too simple. It's all those things combined. It's somebody who has nothing left to lose and feels compelled to make the most drastic choices possible, but he does it in a way that you understand why he's doing it. You don't agree with why he's doing it. Kind of similar to Joaquin Phoenix and Eddington, but you feel his need to do what he does, and his self-rationalizing becomes like rationalizing for the audience as well. And because of the investment he has in this character, you're totally along for the ride. It's just a brittle, on the edge of emotions character. And again, watching somebody try to hold their shit together is much more compelling to me than somebody letting the emotion out. And there's quite a good bit of that in this performance.
So, okay, I have to be fully honest for everybody. Having gotten the chance to see this movie, I think this is the case of Neon flying maybe a little bit too close to the sun this year, with picking up every international film and then not being able to back any of them in a fully mannered way. I mean, I guess it got Secret Agent, and did it get another film through?
Cera and Sentimental Value.
Sentimental. Oh,
Right.
okay. So
Plus,
it definitely
it
had
was
its
just an
like,
accident. Got the screenplay
yeah,
nomination. They got stuff. This is the only
yeah.
one that went totally blank.
This was the case of just like I kind of wish somebody else would take it, so it could have gone a better rollout. The reason I'm saying it is because I haven't gotten the chance to see it. It was in theaters for 1 week. I was sick the week it came out, so my friend and I were going to see it this week, and then we look and it's basically unavailable in Sacramento right now. So this is the case. If I haven't seen this movie, I'm very excited to see this movie. I am very sad at the fact that there's a real possibility that I will not be able to see it in theaters until 25 years later when we all reappraise this as a masterpiece and they do the, I guess what will be the 8K restoration of this movie in 25 years.
Yeah.
So I wish I could speak more on this. I just haven't seen it. It's so high on my list of wanting to see it. Just haven't gotten the chance to. My next performance is, I think similarly, this idea that you just referred to of like, it's more interesting to watch somebody try to hold everything in than let it all out. That's how I would describe the Ethan Hawke performance in Blue Moon, which is somebody who is presenting himself how he wants to be perceived, and in actuality is just one of the saddest men that you've ever come across in a movie. I thought Ethan Hawke was a revelation in Blue Moon. And it's silly because like Ethan Hawke has been with us now for 30 plus years. Like we know he's a great actor. I don't think he's been better in a movie than he's been in Blue Moon. I found him so captivating in this. He's always been more of a supporting actor to me. Like I've always enjoyed his roles more in supporting than I have as of a lead. This one, he carries Blue Moon with I found it very poetic, as I would describe his performance, of this kind of sing-song nature to his performance. It at times it almost feels like it could be leaning into a caricature, but the way that he's able to ground this character, one of my favorite scenes between two actors this year is him and Margaret Qualley in the
Kotek room.
Yeah. Just that moment where you can literally see Ethan Hawke's character, their heart break, and how he's trying to hide that. And that being what will ultimately be the death of him. This idea that like, this is somebody who has to put on a show 24/7, and real sadness, real genuine heartbreak, he just can't feel. One, because he's not true to who he is in that moment due to what it means to be. Is he confirmed gay in real life? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
he's somewhere in the Kinsey scale.
Yeah, he's somewhere in the fact that like I think this film kind of implies that he's bisexual, where he has
that's kind of what I got to.
Men and women.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's hiding this part of him, and then two, that in this moment where he genuinely feels real connection, the fact that he'll never have that because of who he is, I found really heartbreaking. And it's a very beautiful film, and I think it's a very funny film that I also don't really want to revisit just due to how sad the finale makes me. And I think that emptiness that you walk away with is kind of the key to this movie that I really adored. So I really enjoyed Blue Moon more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I wish I did, because on paper this movie feels like it was made for me, like a talkie movie set during the opening night of Oklahoma. That's just so me.
Yeah.
And yet I didn't. But Ethan Hawke's performance is unbelievable. I mean, he is a guy who never shuts up. And yet you want him to keep talking because he's so clever and effusive and annoying, but in a way that's compelling. Yes. And I've never seen Ethan Hawke give a performance like this. It's totally new for him.
That's what I found so interesting about this film is I've never seen him be the center of attention. I think Ethan Hawke has always been a performer who I've kind of described him as a blue collar actor. Like he kind of fits the everyday man quality in movies. And I think that's when he's playing his best, when it's just like, hey, this guy feels like somebody that you know. Mm-hmm. This character of, it's Lorenz Hart, right? That's the person that he's playing. I believe that's correct.
That's right.
He's so noticeable and he takes center stage everywhere. And you're right. Like he should be irritating, and yet I would spend like 30 more minutes gladly with him. Like, it just does the way that he brings people into his orbit. One of the cheekier scenes in the screenplay is when you see a writer at the bar and they have a conversation, and you're like, oh, he has this story about a little mouse named Stuart. I wonder where this is going. Like, that's one of the cheekier moments of the screenplay. I don't know if I loved it, but the way that he brings that character into the orbit, I think, is really a testament to Ethan Hawke's performance. So that's my number 4. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is Julia Roberts in After the Hunt.
I wanted this performance on my list for a film I did not like.
It's a movie I find fascinating.
Yep.
It is a failure of execution. It is a mess. But it is well directed, I think.
I think so too.
For that ending, I have no idea what the hell was happening there.
But how did it go over at Venice? Because you were at the premiere, right?
Here's the thing. I was at the premiere, and here's a little insider tea. So before the movie, they were holding admission into the screening until I
heard about this.
The time it was supposed to start. And that meant we were all outside, which normally August in Italy, there's worse places to be, but it was pouring rain.
Yeah.
Pouring rain. And there was overhead, like a shelter, but it only extended so far. So a lot of us were just out in the open, just getting soaked, and they were not letting us inside. Yeah. People were yelling. It was very Italian. I had a small reservoir in each of my boots. And yeah, I think that maybe affected people's first response. Like, if the first people that see your movie are a bunch of cranky, wet critics and the movie is already a little prickly, it's not a masterpiece, that's going to be tough, which I think is why the response was immediately so vociferously negative. Also because the movie doesn't totally work, but that didn't help. I kind of like the movie. I think it's interesting.
I kind of did too.
I think it's fascinating, and I'm going to take fascinating over something like, sorry, Guillermo del Toro, but like Frankenstein, which I found so dull, if not like visually interesting. But what Julia Roberts is doing in this is kind of unquestionably incredible work. It's one of her best performances. She is brittle and weird. It's top 5 for me. I'm a fan of hers generally, but this is up there. It's definitely her best work in a long time. It's closer to her work from August Osage County, which is probably my favorite performance of hers. Talk about another movie that doesn't totally work, but she's amazing in.
That's how I feel about most of her filmography. There's a lot of performances in there that I'm like, or films in there that I'm like, not a great film. Performance is pretty good.
But what she's doing here, where she's like brittle and on the edge and weird and aloof and makes weird choices and is like throwing up the whole time and clearly just is going through it, but has to keep it together. She's so good at that. Like, she is the through line to this film. And if it wasn't somebody like her, I don't think it would work, but she knows exactly what she's doing. She knows what her face looks like on camera because she's been doing it for nearly half a century, and she's able to like puppeteer it minutely in a way that is just perfect. And you don't get that type of work from somebody who's not either unfathomably intuitive or extremely professional like she is.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, one, I've heard that same story about the Venice premiere, some of the mess and also some of the reasons why that happened, and I think a few people being rubbed the wrong way of the reasons.
They were testing something. I never got a full answer.
I never got the full. I don't know if the full answer is like readily available, but it does sound like Luca was like tinkering with some of the presentation formats.
Yeah.
Of it. I don't know the whole thing, and because I know the Jay Kelly premiere was like right after, and people had to like leave this film.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so I heard a lot about this.
Early.
Yeah. Totally agree with you on everything you said. Film itself, I walked in dreading it. This was like, when I heard the premise, when I heard the poor reception, I was like, oh my God, this is like my worst nightmare. This is a Bill Maher New Rules segment, the film. Like, I'm like, this is like my nightmare of a movie. I walked in and I'm like, okay. So that was like the mindset and mind you, I was like a month late to seeing this movie in theaters. So I walked in, empty theater. This was my mindset. Was kind of fascinated by it. It's not the New Rules segment that I was afraid it was. what it is, I have no real understanding. I think it is trying to be a kind of same way Eddington is just trying to capture a mood and a feeling. I think that's what it's similarly trying to do. What it does and doesn't accomplish, we could talk about. I could talk about After the Hunt for like hours. I find this film such a fascinating failure. Julia Roberts is exceptional in this film. This is again not an actress I've always been a huge fan of. I've just never really connected with her. I think she's just like, I don't know if it's just because I'm a little younger. I've never really gotten the whole Julia Roberts craze. This was a performance I watched and I'm like, I get it. She's really good in this movie. She's holding together a film that at every moment is threatening to collapse in on itself. And in multiple scenes is quite literally collapsing in on itself. It's a fascinating failure that I also kind of enjoyed watching, that I don't think is like fully incompetent.
No, there's thought behind this. It just isn't always the right thought.
I'm going to try to get us out in about 20 more minutes because I know we are going a little long, but my next performance, Josh O'Connor, Wake Up Dead Man.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
I fucking rocked. I adored this performance. So this one was a very personal performance for me. I am somebody who came to faith later in life, going into college, lost that faith. This is really huge context. I went into college 2016, like right at my freshman year is when Trump got elected into office. Let's just say my politics have never agreed largely with the Christian community and the church regarding Trump and everything. I will be fully transparent on that. I have never had any tolerance for any of that conservatism. Watching this performance, I think captured a primal feeling that I had with some of my, basically why I've kind of backed away from the church and a lot of aspects of my faith, was how true the corruption of it and everyone involved in the church setting is. And this journey of one man who is devout and comes to faith later in his life, and how he is trying to articulate and present himself as a man of faith and what that actually means in a institution that is fundamentally corrupted and broken in a lot of ways, and trying to find something earnest in it. I just found flat out like beautiful. And there's a lot of scenes. The one scene, of course, that's been pointed out more than any is the scene with him on the phone call, which is, I mean, it's an incredible scene. It is so real. I've known people who've been in that situation. I've been in that situation. Like that is the beauty that drew me to faith initially, was moments like that. And I think that Josh O'Connor is able to tap into that and find something that I would call the closest to devout Christianity or faith in a movie that I've seen, and actually having something earnest to say about it and show the positivity of faith and the beauty of faith, while also acknowledging and being very real about this is also what's broken and why people leave faith, or why people abandon their faith. Like the fact that Rian Johnson is able to, someone who I'm pretty sure Jonsson characterized himself as an atheist on the press tour of that, the fact that it wouldn't surprise me at all, but like the fact that this film is able to, I think, capture that feeling and mood through the Josh O'Connor performance is something just I found just so moving.
Yeah, he had an incredible year, Josh O'Connor, and this is my favorite of his performances. It is, first of all, the accent work. Amazing. It never breaks. You never even think he was British, except for maybe those years. But it just is such good work from him in terms of creating a type of character. You know, this type of priest wouldn't seem on paper like somebody who would be devoted to the church. And you might even think on paper maybe he's here for bad reasons
Yeah.
or not fully intentional reasons. But no, you buy that he's there for actually the opposite, all the right reasons, the reason that you wish more people of faith were going to church for.
Yeah, no, like I said, I found it beautiful. And I think he plays off everyone very well in this movie. I think he's the most interesting protagonist opposite Daniel Craig. I loved how they developed the Blanc character with this. I think the final few moments of this film between the two of them having a real heart-to-heart conversation about faith and how you see Blanc, I think, open up to the ideas of faith in some ways, and in others he's still going to be distanced from it, but he understands that he understands where Josh O'Connor stands and why he stands for this, and respects and appreciates it. I found it, like I said, quite moving. I adored this film. What's your number two?
My number two is the character of the year. It's Amy Madigan in Weapons.
Yep.
I think when we talk about the year in film 2025, in 20 years, whatever down the line, she'll be the thing that, at least the character, if not the performance, that will be most discussed as an indelible part of what made this year special. The fact that she wasn't in any of the marketing and then showed up an hour into the movie and then was the thing that everybody talked about afterwards, incredible. Watching the movie, I didn't realize that this character or that Amy Madigan was in it, and you're kind of watching and going, who is this? Like, this is an amazing, is this a new actor? Was this somebody we don't know? Did they find her off the street? No, it's Oscar nominee Amy Madigan. And it seems like it might be on paper an easy performance because especially the early scenes, it's very Ruth Gordon, Rosemary's Baby. It's very broad, but the scenes that really lock her in are the scenes like at the dinner table scene where she's telling her maybe nephew, maybe not, that she can make his parents hurt themselves. And it's so focused. And I love a character who can be clownish, but also scary. I just always love that.
There's
just really amazing work here.
There's something to be said about creating an iconic character and how hard that is and how much of a testament it is. And in horror, you get them every few years. You get one of these characters where it's like, you get your Hellraisers, you get your Jigsaws, like you get them every so often. One that's not a part of a well, I guess Hellraiser is, and I guess both of those are now franchises, but like one that kind of comes out and you're like, where did this come from? And I feel like we hadn't gotten one in a while. Like, this was that one for me where I watched it. I'm like, yep, this is going to be 50 years. We're going to be talking about this. This will be memorable. I love this film. I've rewatched it for Halloween and the film worked even better the second time. I think it's one of those films that the more you watch it, the more you pick up on, with especially the performances and especially once you realize what the Aunt Gladys arc is and how they fit into this movie and this story. I don't even know how to articulate why I love this performance, except for the element of surprise that you talked about, how it's presented within this movie, and then just how much it's willing to commit to the craziness and how much she's willing to embrace it. And the ending is my favorite ending of the year. It's just, I think, the most electric. And that's the thing.
It's a triumph of entertainment is what it is.
Kreger as a director reminds me most of Sam Raimi. I think that is the director that he closely marks his career towards. I feel that a lot in Barbarian and I feel that a lot in Weapons, where I'm like, this is kind of a classic Sam Raimi story. Like 30 years ago, if Weapons came out, this would be a Sam Raimi movie. Yeah, I was just blown away by Madigan. I'm so glad to see that she got the Oscar love here. Obviously, I don't think there's any chance that she's going to win. I'm still hoping there's a dark horse. I think there's a chance. I don't think it's over.
We're not at the point yet where I'm comfortable making any declarations. So.
Yeah, I'm hoping it gets the love because this was one of those ones where it's just like, it's hard for a movie like Weapons, which has a lot of twists and turns, for everybody to walk out and be like, Aunt Gladys, like, what the hell? Like, that's the performance. Like, oh my God. Yeah, it's that level of an icon, which that brings me to my number 2. And I just want to, this is prop comedy. you got to straighten the hair down.
No.
Sorry, this is a mustache comb, so it's not working. That was disgusting.
Horrible.
Even doing it right now is like, oh my God, why? It's Sean Penn in one battle after another.
Mm-hmm.
Another actor I'm very lukewarm on. I don't know what it is. I've never really responded to him on screen. Some of his older work, obviously. Like, there's a few performances that are undeniable. Him in one battle after another was the most upsetting character I'd seen in a film this year.
Yeah.
Every decision, writing decision, and acting decision that he makes in this film, I like shiver thinking about. Some of the line delivery that he has in this movie, which has now become very parodied online, is like just truly like he says it. The line, "Do you like black girls?" Like that whole line that he has to Leonardo DiCaprio. It's so like, even when it's like memed online, like when you see it memed, or like when SNL had their really funny skit about that, like, did you see that one?
No, I didn't.
It was the Tiana Taylor, it's one battle after another action figures.
Oh, I didn't watch it, but I saw a tweet of a screenshot of it. So.
Yeah, it was very funny. It's a good skit. But either way, like what Sean Penn is doing in this movie is so unsettling. And this is like, I don't feel like I noticed the details of acting very well. And like, especially when an actor isn't necessarily transforming, like when they're putting on a costume, the way that Sean Penn holds himself in this movie, like the locked quality to Lockjaw.
Yeah.
Like the way his ass is like so tight the entire movie, and it feels like he is quite literally walking up with a stick up his butt, is like kind of just like so disturbing. Like I really don't know how else to describe this performance, except when I was watching it, I was like, this is the most dangerous human being anybody has ever stumbled upon this earth. Like, and what I love about this is the patheticness to his villain qualities. Like the fact that like he is really striving for middle management. Like that really seems like his goal in life is to sit in a desk with a view. Like how pathetic every endeavor is for this character. The fact that he is willing to destroy lives, the fact that he's willing to cause terror on marginalized communities, that he is willing to put immigrants' lives at harm, like the way that he is so predisposed to being horrific, all in the search of very little. The fact that he's trying to not really make much of his life in this. Like the fact that he is willing to destroy lives to sit at a desk, I think is probably a very perfect encapsulation of how evil is existing right now and what we've seen, especially this past year. I think that's just the truth of it. Like the patheticness of his strive. Like there's no greater glory. He doesn't see himself as like this leader. Like all he wants to do is fit in with people who will never accept him and use him.
He's somebody who longs for the glory of battle, but there's no more battles. You know, like there are, but it's the same reason people join ICE is because they want to live out their military fantasies. And the way his body, to your point, is so like tense, it makes him seem like he could spring at any moment because he's under pressure. So that makes him terrifying. And you see that also in some close-ups, his face is like moving almost against its will. Like in the scene with Willa, the paternity test scene in the church, his face is like rebelling. It's like his muscles are screaming in his face.
It's so fascinating to watch this movie, knowing everything that happens in the movie, and specifically his relationship as a character to race in this film. How he understands it, how he understands this quote unquote transgression that has transpired that is now basically threatening everything that he hopes to achieve. How he is trying to achieve all white order while having transgressions himself, and knowing that, and like trying to basically bluff his way through it. Somebody who just can't bluff to save his life. He's one of the funniest scene in the movies where he basically makes the excuse of why this transgression happened. It's a very darkly comedic scene. I won't spoil the line. Also, it's a pretty upsetting line in its own context, but what he does in this, in a movie that has like 5 great performances, I could have gladly had Chase Infinity on this list. I wish she got the Best Actress nomination for this film. I think this film is wonderful, and I think Sean Penn is just such a memorable villain in this. And when you've always heard actors talk about like how Sean Penn was like the guy they looked up to for transformation, and I never really understood that. You watch this film and you're like, oh, that's why he's so renowned amongst his peers. It's kind of a chalk pick, but like sometimes you look at the film and you're like, it's kind of undeniable what they do. That's how I felt about this.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a reason I didn't put any one battle performances on here, is because it felt a little too obvious for me because my number one of the year. But to your point, any of those 5 major performances, and even Regina Hall, would be worthy of praise here, and could have been. I could have filled my list, just half of it with amazing performances from that one movie.
Yeah. Now we're down to our number ones. Cody?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I know what's left on your list.
But yeah. I'm not the first person to say this, but Rose Byrne is giving the best performance of the year. And if I had legs, I'd kick you. It's a movie that I avoided for a long time. It played at Sundance last year when I was there, and I didn't see it because I wasn't assigned it. And everybody was talking about it like, oh my God, it's like having a panic attack. And I was like, I'm good. I'll see it if I have to. I love Rose Byrne, but that doesn't sound like something I need to be seeking out. And then I'm glad I did eventually watch it, obviously, way later in the season. And I found the movie really funny. Not to be too edgelordy here, but I totally agree with the classification of it as a comedy at the Golden Globes. I think everything she's doing is so on the edge of absurdity and even tips over into it that it has to be a comedy. Otherwise, it would be too upsetting to fathom. And the tone of the movie, I think, leans into that. But kind of not dissimilar from Sean Penn in One Battle After Another, weirdly. She's so bottled and she's so like vibrating with tension and stress at all times. And I don't know how she physically maintained that energy for the entire movie, but she did. Like, there's, from what I recall, no letting up from that energy. It is just Sturm and Drang at all times, but is not a hard performance to watch. She draws you in a way that you wouldn't expect for a performance of somebody who you'd avoid in the checkout line at the grocery store. It is a totally compelling, incredible performance from one of our best leading actresses, and also amazing accent work. It never slips up once.
No, it never does. This film, I totally agree with you. I think what I found so incredible watching this performance was how watchable it was. To your point where it's just like, I had been excited for this movie. I had heard so much about it. I knew Conan O'Brien was kind of the stunt casting of this movie. He's also very good in this movie, surprisingly. He's like very committed to this role and does it well. With Rose Byrne, what I found so impressive about the performance is just this steadfast commitment she has as a performer to like always being on the edge, going over it sometimes, and always just like having this high strung energy to them. And it feeling so physically and emotionally exhausting. And yet I was just so locked into whatever decision she makes the next scene to scene. I think the moment for me that really works for her the best is the way the film reveals more about the husband character is, I think, kind of the genius of the movie. This way that we're like, oh my God, it's this absentee father in this moment where this woman is going so much through it. And then you kind of understand there's reasons for that. And like, you start to get a better picture. The fact that this movie has 100% of the time her on screen and she captures the camera the entire time. It's pretty incredible. Like the way that she is able to hold herself on screen. And I think convey truths about motherhood that are really uncomfortable, very profound, very true. I found it like joyous to watch is the bad word. Like that's not
No,
how
I
I would
get that though.
describe it.
I wanted more of it. I was really engrossed by her character, her performance, the world the film creates. I really enjoyed the movie.
You just like you want you're it's a movie that the whole time you're kind of like wanting somebody to help. Like that's the whole point of the movie is you're just like, please somebody like help this woman. Like she's going through too much. And the way stuff gets added to her plate, like as the movie goes on and like another challenge or obstacle presents itself, the way she reacts and like now like the way that you physically see her compartmentalizing her brain on screen, like to now add a new task in.
Mm-hmm.
I found it very just like profound and real. And also like just some of the little eccentricities this character has, like a moment that I've seen referred to a few times, which is again, I think they said this was an improvised scene. The way she rolls up a pizza and eats it, and the whole idea of like that just is how she has to do it because of how busy and chaotic her life is. Like it's little decisions like
it's a
that.
Green Book
that make,
reference.
yeah, it's a great moment to fully understand and get what this character is going through in this moment. This was also very high on my list. This would have been the top 2. Similarly, my number 1 on my list is another performance from somebody that is basically required to be on screen 100% of the time. And I've never found them to be this electric. Mm-hmm. It is my favorite film of the year. It's my favorite performance of the year. It is Timothee Chalamet in Marty Supreme, which is at some point it's like the boring pick, but at the same time I watched that performance and it's like,
yeah,
what else am I supposed to say about it? Like I found this performance just beautiful. This is the reason this movie worked for me from Josh Safdie is what I loved about it was how sincere this movie gets. And I love Uncut Gems. It's one of my favorite films of that year as well. The way that this movie achieves sincerity through Marty, who is the most difficult character to root for, and yet I found myself rooting for him at every turn. The abrasive quality that Marty has as a person in this movie. The fact that 1 minute he can drop a Holocaust joke to the next moment you're laughing with him kind of shows the charisma overload that Chalamet is working with in this movie. He is oozing with confidence. You've never seen a performance that just like somebody feels so assured in what they are doing, especially for a guy that at every turn does something deeply unlikable or deeply personally frustrating. And you're just like, you want him to do better. And yet at every time you're like, I kept hearing this. I think Sean Fennessy on The Big Picture described it as like, it's this guy. Like every time he does something, you're like, this guy, like this son of a bitch. Like, and like, it's so impressive that the movie keeps it up for 2.5 hours with every moment him doing something. You're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And then he keeps doing it. And you're like, I kind of like it. I kind of like this guy. I can't get over it. Like I should be so out on this guy and he should annoy the shit out of me because he is annoying as shit. But I think it to me, and listen, I'm 28. Like I'm not saying I've had a Marty Supreme life, but some of the characteristics of being 20 and how it's captured in this film, I just found so real to life where it's just like, hey, yeah, I haven't had this situation. I have had nothing 100% of like what he's gone through. But like, I remember situations where I was really dumb and did something really stupid that I now look back on and I'm like, oh yeah, that was dumb and stupid. But when I was like 22, I didn't think of it that way. That's like kind of the whole arc that he's hitting in this movie. And I just found it so electric to watch. There's like no other word for me to describe it except every minute of it. I was like, all right, cool. Let's keep going with this guy. I'm still in.
What I think is fascinating about him as a character is that he thinks he is living the American dream. And in a way he is, but not because of how he thinks he's going about it. The cunning and conniving and double crossing those are uniquely American qualities, and that's kind of the American story. I just think he views those as necessary evils, or even things he doesn't mind doing because the end goal is so correct, and that's how America functions. Like that is kind of what we've been doing for 250 years now.
Yeah.
And the fact that Timothee is able to make it compelling and annoying but watchably annoying is really, really impressive. That is not easy to do, and the movie would absolutely explode in the worst way if he wasn't there to help it.
And I think the moment that, like, when this movie went from like 4.5 to 5-star masterpiece to me is how much emotion I felt in the finale of this film, where he sees his son for the first time in the hospital ward. Because, you know, like, that's the whole point of the movie.
Mhm.
You get that at the introduction of the movie. You know that eventually has to come into play. And the transformation that he has in that moment. And, like, I guess the way that it grounds the movie in it. And, like, what it means to now be a father, like what that responsibility is. I found that just so, like, I just found myself like really emotional watching that scene of like, oh, that's another universal truth of like somebody growing up. Like, what does it actually mean to grow up? And you're right, because he is so unlikable. He is narcissistic. He is cheating. He is lying his way through. He does a lot of horrendous stuff to meet what he believes is his end goal, to meet his perfection, to meet what he envisions for himself in his life. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. He gets what he discovers, what ends up being his happy ending.
Mhm.
There's a lot to like about this film. I will be fully honest. I had no idea who Kevin O'Leary was going into this movie. I had no
Never
clue
seen
what
Shark
Shark
Tank.
Tank was. So
No.
I watched this movie and I'm like, who is this guy? This guy's pretty great.
He's pretty good.
I'm like, this guy. And then I read more about him, and then I've seen now interviews. It feels like he just won't stop talking. And I'm like, please, you're really like ruining this thing for me that I really enjoyed you in.
Yep, we'll always have Marty.
Yeah. But anyway, that's my number one. So before I let you go, was there any honorable mentions that came really close?
Oh, so many. Geez, where do I even begin? I mean, Emma Stone and Bugonia, like
Yep.
she was up there for me. I left her off. Probably the highest rated performance I have that I didn't include, mostly because I just wanted to talk about Jesse instead. And then a bunch of like Oscar contenders like Leo and Leo's the big one. He's my other favorite lead actor of the year.
Yeah.
Benicio del Toro, obviously. Jacoby Jupe, which I think is by far the most successful part of Hamlet.
Yeah, fully agreed. Hamnet did not make the list. I had a question. Sentimental Value blanked on both of ours.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Another film that I logically understood, and I liked more than Hamnet. I did like it more than Hamnet. It was a film that sometimes I have the reaction of, oh, I get it. And I really like how this film is constructed. I think it's well acted. I think it's well directed. And yet I just didn't have the emotional attachment I thought I was going to have to it.
Which is a shame because I love Worst Person in the World.
Yeah, I do too.
Much.
And again, like I said, this isn't a bad film. I liked the film. It was just, I was kind of surprised that I was like, wow, I really didn't feel anything. And again, I understood the logic of all the writing. I think it's a very well written film. I think it's like crafted expertly. And it's just the fact that it just didn't emotionally grab me is the reason I don't love the film. Like, it should be a 5-star movie for me that just didn't click with me emotionally. I occasionally have those films.
For me, I really could not get onto. I really liked the movie, but I couldn't quite lock into the things that everybody else liked about it.
Yeah.
I think the fact that my favorite performances are Renata and Elle Fanning, and everybody else's is Inga and Stellan, which I don't really. They're both good, but I don't really understand the like must be Oscar winners praise for them. I think that just shows how I couldn't quite get on the movie's wavelength.
Yeah, I felt that the entire time as well. Performances for me that I had written down, we had a lot that overlapped. We didn't talk about Michael B. Jordan enough in Sinners. Great performance. I had Jacob Elordi for Frankenstein. He was the closest I came to putting him on. We discussed having him on at the 25 instead of Corenswet. I was far more positive on Frankenstein than you were. I love that performance. I generally like that film quite a bit.
He's
Naomi
amazing. I
Aki,
have no qualms with him.
Naomi Aki for Sorry Baby was a performance that I really, really dug.
She's also great in Mickey 17.
She's very
good.
I almost put Pattinson on for Mickey 17, another film that I really like.
Yeah.
I had the ensemble for It Was Just an Accident, but I didn't know which one to single out. So that was kind of why I didn't make the list. Let's see. Sophie Thatcher for Companion was one that I liked.
Oh, yeah. I like that movie.
I had Brendan Fraser for Rental Family, which is a film that I didn't think was fully successful, but I liked this performance more than his Oscar-winning performance that he gave.
I didn't see that one. So
Dakota Johnson Splitsville was actually one that I thought was very charming from her. Let's see what else. And then I will say it, I thought Sydney Sweeney was quite good in Christie.
Happy to hear that. I didn't see it.
So that is my list. So Cody, thank you so much for indulging me on this 2-hour podcast of the best performances of 2025. Where can people find you?
Thanks for having me. You can find my writing and podcasting at Next Best Picture and Awards Watch. I have my own podcast, Halloweeners, a horror movie podcast. And you can find me on every social media platform, including Letterboxd and Twitter at CodyMonster91.
And one last question for you before we leave. What's the one out-of-pocket Oscar prediction that you think could happen? Like if you were to say, this is the one that I feel like people aren't talking about right now.
I just feel this isn't too shocking. I just think Sinners is going to get something we're not expecting, like costumes or production design or sound or something like that. Otherwise, I feel like this is fairly predictable, which is a damning thing to say a month out. I understand, but still.
I think the same thing. I kind of think Sinners might win Best Picture.
It absolutely could.
I think it's like a real possibility. I think most people have kind of like put to the idea that like one battle's going to win it all. And I'm like, I don't know. I could see them going Paul Thomas Anderson directing, and I could see them going writing for him as well. He gets screenplay and director.
Yeah. Well, they're both getting screenplay.
Yeah, they're going to split it. Because he's an original, he's an adapted. I really think people are like kind of underrating Sinners' chances to actually win it all. I think they see it as like it's gonna be nominated for the most, but it's not gonna win a ton. I'm like, no, I have it as a real possibility upset here.
I think if it wins PGA. If it doesn't win PGA, I'm not. If one battle wins PGA, I'm just gonna call it, and that'll be great. And people will say that Sinners was underappreciated and whatever. But I think Sinners could definitely take it.
Yeah. So that's mine. So thank you so much, Cody, for joining me. And to everyone who's watched this video, make sure to subscribe. It really does help me out. And follow along. I don't know exactly when this will post, so I may have a review of Wuthering Heights, or I may have already seen it by here. So make sure to subscribe whenever. Whatever films are coming out, I'll probably have seen them and reviewed them. So check out this channel for more. Thank you so much for joining me, Cody. And thank you all for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.